All right, well, let's go ahead and look at another class. I'm going to call this one public class myPoint. And this is going to have two instance variables. So two instance variables. I'm going to say the first one's double x and the other one is double y. So the whole point of myPoint, no pun intended, is to hold the values x and y. Okay, it's a point in geometry, so it holds x and a y. I'm going to create public myPoint. And so if someone creates a myPoint object without passing anything in, I'm so going to say x equals 0 and y equals 0. No problem. Otherwise, if they want to, they can pass in double x1 and double y1. And we simply say x equals x1 and y equals y1. I'm going to even have a print me. So public void print me. And all that does is it prints out x and y. I'm going to say system out print line, and I'm going to put in a nice little parentheses, and then I'm going to put in x, and then I'm going to put in a comma, and then a y, and close it off with parentheses. There we go. So we'll save that. And for this to work, it has to be in the same directory or folder as the other one that I'm using. So I'm going to use what I've already started off with object-oriented introduction. I'm now going to call it 3. All right, so I'm going to comment all this out. There we go. Now, remember how we created my array, ma1 equals new my array, we passed in some information. Well, what do I have to do? With myPoint, I can either pass in nothing, and it'll create an x and y both 0, or I can pass in some actual values. So let's do both. So myPoint, just mp1, m for my, p for point, equals new myPoint, and we're not going to pass in anything. This is called the empty constructor. Empty constructor. And then this one, we'll say myPoint mp2 equals new myPoint. And let's pass in 3.4 and 5.2. Those look like lovely, lovely, lovely points. All right, everything compiles, great. And if I run it, nothing happens. Well, an object, in object-oriented programming, is just a variable. It holds data, but if I don't do anything with it, it's useless. I do luckily have one method in here called printMe. So how do I print mp1? mp1 dot printMe, and then mp2 dot printMe. There we go. Compile that. That's great. Now what is the value, the x of mp1? Well, actually, let's figure that out. Let's go system out println, and we'll say the x equals mp1.x, and then the y equals mp1.y. All right, so this will print out the x and the y of here. So let's only, so we don't get confused, not print out mp2 yet. Hopefully, this will be something. What should it be? Well, I want to have an empty constructor, x equals 0 and y equals 0. No problem. So this should be the x equals 0, the y equals 0. Cool. All right, I forgot a plus sign. Plus, all right. There we go. Run this. And we'll move it up. And it says the x equals 0, the y equals 0. Good. Why do they have 0, 0.0? Because they're doubles. Excellent. So the x, mp1.x, the y, mp1.y. And then I call printMe, and it comes out 0, 0 very nicely. Comment this line out, and we'll uncomment that out. So we'll figure out, this should say 3.4 and 5.2. Go, and look at that. Very beautiful. There is one thing I want to talk about now. It's called this. Well, this is kind of, I got an x1. When you have a variable name, you really should call it the right thing. It's not an x1. What is an x1? I don't know. I just want to call it x. I just want to call it y. Give the variable the best name it possibly can. Now I'm saying x equals x. Oh, well, which x is this x referring to? This one or that one? And the problem, I need two. The problem of knowing which variable is which is called scope. So what's the scope of this x? Well, this x was created. It's a parameter. It's the first parameter here. Y is the second parameter in this method. So it's this parameter, and it exists from this curly brace to this curly brace. And so it dies. But this x is a global or an instance variable, and it exists throughout the entire class from there to here. And as long as the object exists, this x exists. So this is a local variable, this one, and this is a global one. Well, how we distinguish it? This dot x and this dot y. And the this refers to my point, so it's really saying this or my point dot x. Well, where's my point dot x? Oh, it's right there. And then this is the local one. Local ones have precedence. So if you don't say this dot x, it's going to infer that you're talking about the local variable, the one that you just created right here. I could also, let's suppose I had it right here. I could say int x equals 3, and then I could say this dot x equals x. So let's analyze this. What is the scope of x equals 3? It's from when it was created until the end of the method. So it's good from here to there. And this dot x, what is this? Oh, it's referring to the class. So let's say my point dot x. Aha, it's referring to that one, the instance or global variable. So the global or instance variable equals the local one. That's what that would mean. Since that doesn't make any sense to put that in the constructor, we'll delete it. And we'll say that equals 0. Now in this case, this dot x equals 0 and y equals 0. Well, which x does this refer to? Does it refer to this x over here? Well, obviously not. This x is a local variable in this method. This x right here doesn't even have access there. I mean, this function right here, this function, the constructor, doesn't have access to that x. So this x, well, okay, I mean, it says this, so it's obviously my point, which is referring to the instance one. But what about this y? It can't be that one, because this y has the scope of only this method. And so this method doesn't have access to this one. And so in this case, this is optional. So if I say this dot x, or I simply say x equals 0, it doesn't really matter. Y equals 0 or this dot y equals 0, it doesn't matter because there's no confusion. When there is confusion, when you have an x in the instance variable and you have a local x, then you need to use the this. So what is this again? This simply refers to whatever the class is and the instance variable. So this dot x is this particular instance variable equals this one right here, and it's storing it. So I hope that helps you understand this, scope, instant variables versus local variables.